Hey y'all, welcome to the third episode of the Yarn This podcast. Today is Friday, July 17th, 2015. I'm Shama, Jessie's Girl 84 on Ravelry and Instagram. I also have set up a little Ravelry group, Yarn This group, as well as a Facebook page, a Yarn This Facebook page. So you can find me in any of those places, and I would love to hear from any one of you as well. Today's episode is called But My Life Got in the Way. Boy, did it get in the way. It's been 6 weeks since I last recorded. I never imagined that what has happened over the last 6 weeks would ever happen to me. But I'm going to go into that in a few minutes. I'm going to do things a little bit out of order today. And I'm going to try to keep my thoughts organized, and I have my notes over here, but anyway, we'll just see how it goes. Today I'm going to cover Puppy Love, my works in progress. Another one bites the dust, FOs. We Are Family, which is going to be about, this time, about a fiber festival I'm going to this weekend. The final countdown, things that I'm thinking about knitting next. And finally, 1 week, which is miscellaneous. Usually 1 week is what I end with, but I think I'm going to start with that this time, because it's pretty much why everything is the way it is right now. 2 days after I recorded my last episode on June 6th, my husband and I and my son and his girlfriend decided that we would go to where my brother and sister-in-law and nephews and niece live to watch my nephews test for their taekwondo belts. We went in 2 separate cars because after the belt test, my husband and I were going to go on to north of Fort Worth to the IndyCar race that weekend. On the way up, we stopped at my parents'. They live a little over halfway to my brother's. And we were going to drop off my son's dog. And when we got there, my parents were there, and we thought they were going. Well, it turned out Dad had hurt his back, and he felt really bad. He was trying to help his back feel better, and so they weren't going to go. Well, Mom jumped up and said, "Can I go with y'all?" And we said, "Of course." So I said, "You know, you're going to ride up there with us and then ride back with Logan and Ashley." And she's like, "That's fine. That's great." So she got ready. That woman can get ready faster than anybody I know. And we hopped in my husband's truck and we went on. We all got up there, went through the belt test. The boys did great. We had a nice time, but as soon as it was done, my husband and I had to go ahead and go on because it was a little bit further to the race than we thought it was. So we told everybody goodbye and hugged them and went on our way. And they stayed in Tyler to have lunch and visit with my brother and his family. So I don't remember now what time it was, but about 5:30, about 2.5, 3 hours later, Logan, my son, calls and says, "How are you?" And I said, "How are you?" because he didn't sound right. He said, "Well, we were in a wreck." And I said, "Okay," trying not to panic, because at this point we are about 3.5 hours away, almost 3.5 hours away from where everybody was. And he said that he was driving, and suddenly he woke up, and the car was upside down, I believe. And somebody was pulling him out and asked him if he knew who he was, where he was, if he was okay. It turns out that he apparently had a seizure. Never had one before, hasn't had one since. Of course, we've had him checked out, and we're still in the process of finding a neurologist that will see him, and that's another story that I'm not even going to go into. But and he's not driving. We're taking all the precautions and trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or that if it does, we figure out a way to take care of it. However, back to the story, he said that he and his girlfriend Ashley were in an ambulance going to Lufkin, which is where my parents live, but that my mom was going back to Tyler. They were a little over halfway between Lufkin and Tyler, closer to the Lufkin side. And I couldn't figure out why they didn't take them all to the same place. But he said they had her in an ambulance going the other way. So I got on the phone and I called my dad in Lufkin and I said, you know, Logan and Ashley are coming to Lufkin. And I don't know which hospital, there are two there. And I said, you know, could you just kind of try to find out what's going on? So Daddy started trying to find out. And I called my brother. I said, they were in a wreck and Mom is being taken to Tyler. And they also have two hospitals. And I don't know which one. Could you start finding out what's going on? Well, as it turned out, Logan and Ashley, they were banged up. I don't believe either one of them had a concussion, but they were checked out thoroughly. They had x-rays. Ashley had an MRI. She had a sprained shoulder and had to wear a sling for a couple of weeks, and she's sore from it, but no lasting effects other than just the memory of it all. However, my mom, Logan misunderstood, and my mom was actually life-flighted to Tyler, which is the third best trauma center in the country, believe it or not. I had no idea until all this happened. So my brother called and let me know that it was bad, that they were going to have to amputate her left leg. And then he called me back later and he said, well, they said her leg is the least of the problems. More than likely she's not even going to live. We're driving. And that 3.5 hours felt like an eternity. But, you know, I was on the phone with Dad, and I have a friend. I have a bunch of friends in Lufkin, but I called my one friend, and then the word spread from there. And my friend that I called first, she went up there, and she took her dad. Her dad is a lifelong friend of my parents. And he called the preachers where they all worship, and they just got the word out. And I don't know how many people were at the hospital just to make sure that Logan and Ashley were okay and to be there to support my dad. We didn't tell Daddy all that was going on, especially when we found out that my mom probably wasn't going to live. Because we knew that when he decided that he was going to go to Tyler, he was going to go by himself, and we didn't want him to have that on his mind because it's an 1.5-hour drive. Well, the only way to get back to Lufkin from where we were is to come out in Jacksonville, a small town about 30 miles from Tyler. And so when we got there, I knew that the kids were okay, and I just asked my husband if he would go ahead and take me to Tyler. So when we got there, they had amputated her left leg below the knee, and she had made it through surgery. They said the first 48 hours were going to be critical. They still didn't know if she was going to make it. But she had made it through surgery, and they didn't think she was going to do that. So that started the whole thing. My child is an 1.5 hours away. Thankfully, my husband was able to go. I mean, he stayed with me for a few minutes, but I told him to go ahead and go. And we were at the hospital till probably 2 or 3 o'clock. No, I guess it was about 1:30 or so in the morning. They had Mom in ICU. We got to see her, and let me tell you, the first time I saw her, it was a shock because she was not covered up completely. And even though her leg was bandaged and everything, that was the first thing I saw was her leg. And it was extremely disturbing and distressing, and you know, I didn't know what kind of, I've never been through anything like this, so I had no idea what we were up against, what she was up against. I worried about pain. I worried about, is she going to be in excruciating, constant pain? How long is it going to last? All these things went through my head. And I could talk to you for 3 hours about this, but I'm going to try to condense it down a little bit. You know, we went back to my parents' house that night and slept for 3 or 4 hours maybe, and got up and went back. And my husband went with us, and my precious Logan's precious girlfriend's parents, who are also precious, came up, which is about a 6-hour drive from where they are. came to Lufkin and spent the night and you know, checked on the kids and their nurses. So we had that, and we were thankful for that. They got up the next morning. They took them to breakfast. Nobody felt like going to worship that morning, just because the kids were still kind of drowsy from the drugs they had been given in the hospital for pain and all. So they took them to breakfast or lunch or whatever. Then they went back to my parents and hung around for a while. And then they brought Logan back to Houston and dropped him off, where my sweet cousin took over and stayed with him until we got home that night. I had to come home because I had nothing packed to stay. So, you know, at this point, it's been just over 24 hours, and things look pretty good. Mom's intubated and sedated, and they started telling us, you know, she had a little bit of a bleed in her pelvic area, but her pelvis was broken, and they were keeping an eye on that bleeding, and it stopped. By the next morning, it had stopped. Also, some bleeding on her brain, which also, thankfully and miraculously, stopped. She has 6 broken ribs. Her left collarbone, I believe, is broken, and her right shoulder and upper arm were pretty well shattered. But also the C2 vertebrae in her neck was fractured, which could have led to paralysis from the neck down. We were so blessed and fortunate and thankful that there were no effects. The only thing is that the Tuesday following the wreck, they put what's called a halo on her. Some of you probably know what a halo looks like. But I had never experienced this before. It's a piece of metal, well, several like bars kind of that wrap around their head, and there are pins that go in here, and they keep you from being able to turn your head this way or up and down. And it comes down, and then it has this plastic thing that comes down over your shoulders and down over your body, and then wraps around your kind of your ribs area. She's had that on now for almost 5.5 weeks. They got that on the Tuesday following. I guess when they were able to get her off of the ventilator and get her start breathing on her own. Every day there were improvements, and there were improvements quickly. By the end of the first week, we could tell that that she was gonna be, you know, okay, whatever that means. Now, we're 6 weeks out. She still has the halo on, and when they went in to fix her pelvic area, they were unable to do that with pins, which is what they wanted to do. But my mother is 75, and we have a family history of osteoporosis. They said that her bones weren't strong enough for the pins, so they put like this bar thing that attaches to the outside of her pelvis and goes up and out away from her body a bit. So bless her heart, she's been confined with those things, as well as confined in the bed. On a good day, my mom eats like a bird, and she has to eat a lot. Her leg was so badly damaged from the wreck that they amputated what they did in hopes that she would be able to get a prosthetic leg and walk again. But as time went on, it began to look like they might have to go above the knee, which makes it much more difficult to fit someone with a prosthetic and have them walk. However, people have told me that they know people in their family that have done that. But we started giving her, just telling her, you've got to do this, you've got to eat, you've got to drink this, we were giving her protein powder and kefir. But along with all the other issues she has food allergies that manifest by severe stomach aches. In the beginning, I didn't think about too much what she was eating. I just wanted her to eat so that her body could heal. But in a few days, it became obvious that it was really affecting her stomach, and she was having excruciating pain from that. So then we had to go and treat all that. Anyway, I could, like I said, I could go on and on and on. But tomorrow will be 6 weeks. She's still in the hospital, and they told my dad this week that she will be in the hospital until they take the halo off. which they said will be 3 months from the time it was put on. So next week we'll be about to the halfway point, and with the care that my mom has gotten at East Texas Medical Center, we're fine with her staying there. The problem is that it's an hour and a half from their house. My dad is spending 12 to 13 hours a day with her, and he's staying at my brother's at night, which is good because they have 3 small children, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a little girl that just turned 2, so Daddy's got them. You know, he helps out, bathes the kids, he sleeps in the same room with the boys, so he's got some entertainment, and for things to be the way they are, they could have been so much worse. I've had to come back home in the last couple of weeks. My husband had been out of work. He worked in the oil industry, so with the drop in gas prices, he lost his job, but he's gone back to work now. And my son that was driving that had the seizure is 24, so he has a job, and you know, he has a life, and so I'm driving him around. Now my husband can take him back and forth to work some, and our younger son can as well, but not always. And we've had so many people offer to help, and I appreciate that, but it is my responsibility to take care of my family. And so that's where we are, and things are looking really good now. It's been hard and stressful, and we've had so many people that have come and visited, people that brought us food to the hospital, bags of food like protein bars, nuts, snack foods, drinks. There's a couple that worships with my mom, and he is an optometrist that makes at the place where mom gets her eyes checked and gets her glasses. My parents do, and so mom lost her glasses, and they made up her glasses for her and brought her a new pair. They never even found them. Anyway, I failed to mention that the night of the wreck, in addition to all the people that came up and sat in the waiting room with my dad and waited for the kids to find out if they were okay, my friend Lisa that I called, as well as my friend Brenda and her mom Roberta, who I've known since I was 9 years old, stayed there, took the kids from the hospital where they were released back to my parents' house, and stayed with them until my husband was able to get to them. There's no way I could ever thank these people enough for all that they've done for us. For the calls, the cards, the texts, the Facebook messages. I was overwhelmed the first few days with messages, and I was having to do most of it on my phone, and I text all the time, but I'm not great at it. And now I was having to do everything on my phone, and boy, were my hands and fingers tired. But the love and the comfort was amazing. My family has been there. My mom's brother, my Uncle Larry, and his family have been there for us. It's just been a remarkable experience and has drawn almost everybody a lot closer. And as a bonus, I was able to spend a lot of time with my nephews and my niece, which has been amazing because I love those kids like my own. Anyway, that's led to some knitting. I guess that goes without saying because, you know, what was it Elizabeth Zimmerman said? Oh, I shouldn't have said it. But anyway, you knit through all things. I have a very strong faith in God, and I prayed, but it helps me to keep my hands busy. And especially at the beginning when she was in ICU those first 2 weeks, there really wasn't a lot we could do. We could go in and see her, but there wasn't really a place to sit, and there were people in and out so much that we were better off in the waiting room, at least one of us at a time, to make sure that when visitors came that we could be there. And everybody kept saying, do you have your knitting? Do you have your knitting? Because everybody knows that I knit all the time. And thankfully I did. The first few days it was hard to knit because I was so rattled, and it was hard to concentrate. And like I said, I had so many people that I was sending messages back and forth with that I just didn't have the time. Well, about the middle of that first week, I decided I wanted to knit a blanket for Mom. And I had just seen an episode of Knit and Crochet Now. Let me reach up. I didn't put it where I was supposed to. And they were talking about this. They showed this Afghan. Sorry, just a minute. A hexagon Afghan, not hexapuffs, but this is hexagons that are knit and attached as you go. Well, again, I was still so out of it those first few days that I knit some hexagons, but I didn't feel like I tried to join them, and I thought, this doesn't look right. This isn't going to work. It's going to be, one side's going to be right side up and the other side's going to be upside down. So I knit 4 of them, and then I just was like, you know, I don't know. It's going to be a while before Mom is able to just sit up like in a chair. And and they have blankets and stuff for her, and this is not really going to be one that can just cover her in the bed. So I put it aside and decided to knit a couple of things that I already had in progress for myself. And I'll come back to those now in a few minutes because they're FOs. But I decided to pick the blanket back up last night. As a matter of fact, I was waiting for my son, and I decided just to hang out at Barnes & Noble. It's good knitting time and coffee time, and I had already knit this hexagon. Now I'm knitting these out of acrylic so that my mom can just throw it in the washer and dryer when the time comes. Oops. And I'll tell you what yarn I'm using in a minute. But I decided to go ahead and try to pick up the stitches and try to give that another chance. So I did, and it worked. And I'm actually down to the point with this one of just cutting the yarn and drawing the yarn through the center here and tying it off and then attaching another one. I'll try to pull it up and show you what it looks like when it's done. A sweet friend of mine that's in my Thursday night knitting group was the one who showed me that yes, that would work. So I thought I'd just give it a try, because I thought, what's the worst thing that could happen? I ripped back, and I wasn't going to lose anything. I wasn't even going to be it wasn't going to be a chance that I would lose what I'd already knitted, because it was already finished. Because that's what you do. You finish it. Or actually, it's on the outside, so it's already finished before you join the next one. So the worst thing you could do is just rip out what you've attached to it. Pick up the stitches. So I'm going to pull a picture up of the Hexagon Afghan. It is by Sandy Rosner. And I'm knitting this on size 8, 5mm needles. And the yarns I'm using are from Hobby Lobby. I'm using the Berries Flower colorway, the Night Watch colorway, Secrets colorway, and Songbird Stripe colorway. And like a doofus, I forgot to bring 2 of them. This is the Night Watch colorway. And I believe this one is maybe the Songbird Stripe colorway. And this one is Berries Flower, I believe. This one. Anyway, they're pretty colors, and I decided to just pick out 4 different yarns and try it that way. And I'm very happy with it. It's quick, it's easy, and now that my mind is a little more clear, I can think about it. Like I said, it's not like it's a difficult project. It's a very nice, simple project. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like. The one, so you can see all the different hexagons. And I actually have 5 of them knit now, but 3 of them I probably won't be able to use for this project, and that's fine. That is perfectly fine. I don't mind. It was good to keep my hands busy. It served its purpose. The other thing that I'm working on that I just cast on the other day is another pair of socks for myself. I love hand knit socks, and I just have gotten more proficient at it just since this year started. And I had some yarn that I had bought on our Indiana trip in 2014, and it's been on my yarn shelf looking at me ever since. I love bright colors. I am not afraid of colors, and when I saw these, I thought these would make some fabulous socks. It's Plymouth yarn, Neon Now, and the price tag is covering the colorway. Oh, you cannot even appreciate how bright the green is in this. Ugh. But you can see the pink, and the pink is fantastic, and there are just blobs of it. It doesn't, the pink doesn't come up very often. So I've knit this, and this is really fast for me. I started it last Sunday, and actually I should be a lot further, but since I'm doing vanilla socks, which I've never done before, I've decided that I can't just do it without something, without learning something or some kind of challenge to it. So I'm going to do my first fish lips kiss heel. Probably after I finish this, recording this, I'm going to go in and sit down and figure out how to do it. I understand it's very simple, but I need to watch the videos and figure it out. So hopefully next week I'll have this sock finished, or next time I record, I'd like to have the whole pair finished. So those are the two things that I'm working on right now. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm doing these socks, the CC's Vanilla Cappuccino sock by CC Almond. This is a free pattern. The way you get it is to join the Java Pearl Design group on Ravelry, and she will gift you this pattern. I'm using a US 2.5 millimeter needle, and I'm using my Knit Picks sock needles. I can't remember what the color is on these, but these are the green and blue ones. I love these needles. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on. I had almost decided, back to the blanket, that I was just going to do a feather and fan, but when I picked it back up, it went so fast that I'm going to stick with this because I like the look of it and it's fun. Now, on to Another One Bites the Dust. These are my finished objects that I was able to complete somehow during the time all this was going on. But I had already started them. I had started a shawl, the Extinction shawl by Natasha, Sills from Gritty Knits. I had started this for the Round Your Neck cowl that Diane from the Suburban Stitcher podcast is doing. And I had planned to do about 3 different shawls, but it ends at the end of August. It started June 1st, and it could already be a work in progress. And I have a shawl that I only have like 20-something rows to go, and had messed it up, and it's been in timeout. So I might try to finish that for this knit along. But I had started this Extinction shawl for the knit along on June 1st, and had put it down, I guess, a day or two after the wreck to try to work on this blanket for Mom. And I just decided a couple of weeks ago, my friend Kim Marie 73 on Ravelry, she had actually started knitting hers a lot earlier when she bought the kit, and I talked about that in my last episode. But I wanted to finish it and have it to wear, because I've been really cold at the hospital. The medications that they've given Mom, sometimes she's just boiling, and that's not her. She's cold all the time. So then we turn the air down and uncover her, and I'm freezing. So anyway, I wanted to finish this little shawl, and I did. This is I can't really see what it's green at the bottom, and then it's got this turquoise in the middle, and then this purpley at the top. There you go. And it's just a little rectangle shawl, and I love this little thing. It's a good long. As a matter of fact, it hangs down a good distance. So I'll be able to wear this weekend when I go to the Houston Fiber Festival, which I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. But anyway, this is my Extinction shawl. I called it my Jurassic World shawl, but I didn't finish it in time to go see Jurassic World with my family. I like wearing this with a shawl pin, and I'm going to try to find another one this weekend so I can be hands-free. Anyway, so that's the first thing I finished. The other thing I finished were my stripy arm warmers that I've been working on for a while, that also designed by CC Almond. She calls them her stripy sleeves of warmth. Let's see. This is also another free pattern. Well, it's really more of a recipe, as well as her vanilla cappuccino socks are a recipe. But again, you join the Java Pearl Design group, and she will send you a link to these, and these are mine. Now, I originally designed them to wear above my elbows, but I really like the slouchiness of them, and when they're below my elbows. And I can pull them up, and I did that last night. I was freezing at Barnes & Noble, and so I pulled them up and wore them that way. And anyway, I love them. They're great. I used the blue yarn. The blue sparkly yarn is from Mustache Yarn. This is her Mustache Yarn and Fiber Ritz Sock in the TARDIS colorway. And that's dyed by Stacy Dawson of the Mustache Yarn, and as well as Mustache Podcast. And then the other two yarns were the ones I got from Groovy Girl Yarns in Kokomo, Indiana. I know that one of them was designed by Mandy, and I don't remember if the other one, I don't remember about the other one. I lost the ball bands for some dumb reason. Unfortunately, Groovy Girl Yarns is out of business now. But a sweet friend of mine suggested that I call these armulets. So these are my stripy armulets, and I love them. Okay, so that's what I've finished in the last few weeks. Now this weekend I have the Houston Fiber Festival coming up. This is the first one we've had in Houston. It looks like they're going to have quite a few vendors, considering this is the first year. I don't really know exactly what I'm going to get, but just like I did at the DFW Fiber Fest, I'm going to go with projects in mind and try to find some yarn to go with them. Now, I know that I want to knit. Let me pull up my project so I can show you. I want to knit some things by TinyOwlNets. I love her aesthetic. Her designs are so cute and feminine, and they have this woodsy fairy thing about them, and I want to knit them. I think the Midsummer Night's Dream, let me see if I can get this to come up, is very cute and very feminine. And it's a hat. Let me see. Here we go. It has like a garland around the edge of it, and it is just so cute. I don't know if I can pull it off, but I'm going to try. Also, I love her birch scarf and arm warmers, wrist warmers, because I love the birch tree. I love the look of it, and it's my favorite essential oil. So I'm wanting to get the yarn for this, and it's felted, so I'm going to have to find some non-superwash in a cream and a dark gray. I've been wanting to knit this for a while. Also, she has these little slippers, and my feet get very, very cold in the winter. So I'm going to try to knit these bunny slippers. I'm sorry, I didn't want to pull up a whole bunch of tabs and not be able to get to them, so I just pulled up her page of designs. I don't know that I've mentioned this on the podcast, but over the last year and a half or so, no, not quite a year and a half, I've lost a lot of weight, so I am very, very cold a lot of the time, and my feet just about freeze all the time, but especially during the winter. So these are her bunny slippers, and I really think that I want to knit a pair of those. So that will be another felted project that I'll be looking for yarn for this weekend. I don't know if I want them to be normal colored or if I want to try to find something that's real bright. Because again, like I said, I'm not at all afraid of color. So I know that I want to knit those as well as the mama vertebrae. And y'all probably think I've got an obsession with Java Pearl, CC Almond from the Geeky Girls Knit podcast, because I talk about her every podcast. But I really do like the same things she does. And she knit her mama vertebrae. It doesn't close in the front. So I thought that might be a really good summer sweater. I mean, I live in Texas, and it is 1,001 degrees out there right now. I don't like summer. Even though I get cold, I hate summer. But, and I'm ready for summer to go away. But I do get cold, like I said, like in Barnes & Noble last night. I about froze to death. And so, you know, I would kind of like to have a little sweater like this that I can grab and pull on. I'm going to pull a picture up of Cece's finished. And she did hers in pink. And I've never been a pink girl until the last couple of years, and all of a sudden I am way into pink. And I think I want a mama vertebrae to pink. So, we'll see how that goes. And then I want to buy some sock yarn, because you can never have enough sock yarn. Never have enough sock yarn. And who knows? I maybe get a bag from Diane of Suburban Stitcher, because I know she's going to be there with some of her bags. Because again, you can never have too many bags. And I don't have that many. So those are the things that I'm going to be looking for yarn for this weekend. At the Fiber Festival, I'm going to meet up with my Thursday night group, the Sheepish Knits. And I'm going to go with my friends Kim Marie 73 on Ravelry, and Annette 79 on Ravelry. They're in my Monday night knitting group. We only meet once a month. My Thursday night group meets every week. And I have to say that this last time that I had my Monday night knit night, 1, 2, 3, 5 of the girls from my Thursday night group showed up just to come and knit with me and hug me and be there to support me because of what I've been through lately. And I can never thank you girls enough for coming. It meant so much to me. Also, another project in my final countdown is what I think I'm going to do with my leftover yarn from my arm warmers, because I have a lot left right here. I haven't weighed it yet, and I don't know how many yards I have. Let's see. But I think I have way more than enough to do something like a sock head hat, or my striped and Saatchi hat by Christy Wasson. I had knit one for myself back in January, and actually I believe that's my Ravelry, my Ravatar right now. And that hat actually looks really good on me, because Saatchi hats are the ones that look best on me. When I knit it in Knit Picks Chroma Worsted in the Pegasus colorway, and I knit that on size 5 needles at 5 and 7s, 3.75 millimeter and 4.5 millimeter needles. And it was a quick, fun knit, and I really love that hat. The sock head hat is by Kelly McClure, and a lot of people have knit that, and that's probably actually the one I'm going to knit, because I know that one is knit with fingering weight yarn. So we'll see. I've got a lot of projects for myself that I'm thinking about doing, but in the meantime, my husband wants me to start a racing car blanket for him. Now he's picked out a lot of things he wants on that blanket, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to get a cross-stitch program to design the squares, just like I did for my Doctor Who blanket. And that's fine. I don't mind. It's just going to take a long time, but he wants it done by next May, before we go to the 100th running of the Indy 500, because next year is the 100th anniversary. So that might be another one that's coming up very, very soon, because if I'm going to get that puppy done, I need to get started on it a year ago. Anyway, I had one more thing that I wanted to talk about. I think this is all. During all of this time with my mom, I'm not a big shopper. Now, I always want more knitting books, more knitting magazines, and more yarn. But I'm not an impulse buyer or anything like that. However, like I said, I've lost weight, and so I don't eat during stress. I'm not a stress eater anymore. I mean, I kind of am. But I had weight loss surgery, so I can only hold so much at a time. And so I kind of bought a lot of books during all of this. I didn't even realize it until I got them all stacked up, and I went, well, there we go. So I'm gonna tell you about these, and I also bought a little bit of yarn as well. The first book that I bought was Adventures in Mochi Mochi Land by Anna Harakovic. I think that's how you say her name. Anna has been designing adorable amigurumi for several years now, and I have every one of her books, as well as most of her individual patterns that she sells on her website. But I had to buy this book because I knit all these things for my nephews and my niece. They love them. They're adorable. And on top of everything else, this book, the first part of this book, is a storybook. And all of the pictures in the book are things that she's knit. I only got to read the first 2 stories to my nephews. We never got back around to reading the third one, but it's really cute, and they really enjoyed the book. And now I can't wait to start knitting some of the projects out of there. The first thing I want to knit is this little dolphin out of the turquoise leftover yarn from my extinction shawl. This little dolphin right here. I'm kind of thinking of something I might want to do with those, and I thought those would be a lot of fun to knit. So the next, well, I'm not sure. The next thing I bought was the Up Down All Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy D. Bernard. Now, I heard about this from Danny from the Little Bobbins Knits podcast, and if you're not watching Little Bobbins Knits, you need to. Danny is adorable. She's very calming, and when I watched her first episode and she talked about reasons why she was intimidated about podcasting, it struck a chord with me, and that's what finally convinced me to jump in and do this. Anyway, so the first episode she put up after Christmas. This was one of the books that she had gotten. And I love stitch dictionaries. I'm not a designer yet. I have dreams of being a designer. But when she talked about this book, I knew that I had to have it, because what it is it's obviously stitch patterns, 150 of them, that are knit top down, bottom up, back and forth, and in the round. Now, not all of them are, but all of them are knit in more than one way. Some of them are just knit flat and in the round, like the rounded honeycomb. And some of them, let's see, yeah, this traveling fern is knit bottom up flat, bottom up in the round, top down flat, and top down in the round. And this is what that stitch looks like. Anyway, I feel like I'll be able to use these in something eventually. At this point in my knitting, I should have enough confidence to take a stitch pattern and plug it into a pattern that already exists and knit it. But I'm just now starting to knit garments for myself. So I haven't had a lot of experience knitting garments. Now, at one point during all of this, Knit Picks had a big sale, and they brought back Feluccia. Well, I've never knit with Feluccia, and I've heard people rave about how much they love Feluccia. So I bought 2 skeins each of 3 of the colorways that they have right now. This one is called Teacup, and it's got kind of a lightish turquoise and aqua, kind of a lavender, a red, and a kind of a denim-y blue in it. And these will be socks eventually. I'm not even really, I don't even know what I'm going to knit, what socks I'm going to knit with these, but I wanted to get some while they still had it because they said it's a limited time. The next colorway I got is called Countess, and this is just shades of purple and lavender. And as always, you can't get a good idea from my lighting in my camera. And the last colorway is called Baker Street. And it's possible that I might not be completely selfish and knit all the socks for me. If my older son wants a pair of Sherlock socks, I'll use this yarn to knit them for him. This has a dark gray, a medium gray, a light gray, and then a lighter blue, and again the more denim-y blue. And this is some soft sock yarn. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I can't wait to try this and see what I think about this. And while they were having their sock yarn, their Feluccia on, they also had their books on sale, and I bought Sock Architecture by Laura Neal. This is Heels, Toes, and Techniques for Knitting Awesome Socks. There are 17 sock patterns, or you can take parts of the socks and design your own. She's got toe up, top down. Let me see here. Well, you can kind of see some of the ones that she's got on here. And I just want to work on my sock knitting because I think designing socks might be a fun thing eventually. But Knit Picks also had a Socktacular, which is a mix and match socks that book that was designed by the Knit Picks team. These are also toe up, top down, and different kinds of heels and toes and different things that you can try to customize socks for yourself. So I'm excited about those books. But I'm not going to try to get into those just yet. I want to be able to think a little bit more. And the last 2 books that I bought were both by Joan of Dark. The first one was Knits for Nerds. And I went ahead and bought the ebook. I don't normally like to buy ebooks because I like to have the book in my hand. But occasionally I will buy an ebook. The main reason I bought that is I wasn't entirely sure about the projects that are in there, and now that I have it, I feel fairly sure that I would like to own a hard copy of it. But then she just released her new book called Geek Knits, and oh my goodness, I love this book so much. It's got Doctor Who inspired knits. It's got I believe Firefly and Serenity, well, Firefly. It's got, let me turn here, sorry. The little helpful worm from Labyrinth. Remember? Yes, all kinds of amazing things. And in addition to having awesome knitted items in here, she's got famous people modeling them. Like, she has a wolf that George R.R. Martin has on his shoulder. Neil Gaiman is modeling some of the things in this book. Let me see here if I can find. I'm so sorry, I should have marked these. Also, one of the patterns that Neil Gaiman modeled is free in the Knitty, what is it, early fall 2015, that's out right now. Well, now that I want to find him, I can't. But this Captain America dress is all that in a bag of chips. I am in love with this. Now, I'm too old to wear something this short, and I wouldn't have even in my younger years, but I think it would be cute over maybe some skinny jeans or something. And I would love to have this knit up for maybe the next Captain America premiere or something like that. We'll see. I've got a lot that I'm looking at wanting to do for myself. I might not ever get all of it knit, but anyway, those are the books that I have recently purchased, and I might come back and give some reviews after I've looked through them and gotten a better idea, but so far they all look amazing, and it's been a good distraction for me. Anyway, I'll be back hopefully in a week or two to review the Houston Fiber Festival and show you the goodies that I got there. Until then, knit on, my friends, and I hope to hear from you.